With the presidential election now only days away, you might be wondering, how is the outcome of that election going to impact the real estate market, especially here in Frisco? Now, for anyone considering buying or selling a home, the uncertainty surrounding the election can lead to questions on timing. When should you sell? Also on pricing. What's pricing going to do? And just a general, what's next? Now, in this video, I'm going to dive into past election cycles to see how home prices and sales were impacted by the election, and then we're going to explore what these trends could mean for you in the year ahead. Now, make sure you stick around until the end, as I'm going to share the latest Frisco market trends with you, along with some strategies to help you make the decision that's best for you and your family, regardless of who wins the election. Hi, this is Andrew with the Andrew Smith team, eXp Realty here in Frisco, Texas. There's been some uncertainty surrounding the real estate markets for the past few years, to be honest with you. COVID hit and everyone was projecting that the market was going to crash. It didn't happen. Then we had soaring mortgage rates, which absolutely put a damper on sales. They have plummeted, but we didn't get the massive correction in pricing that many people thought we were going to get. And now you've got the election. And maybe it's just me, but the election cycles seem to be more contentious than ever, at least more than I remember them growing up, for sure. So you've got this pent-up anxiety, if you like, on what should people do? After all, nobody likes uncertainty. And to be honest with you, Jason Obradovich from New American Funding said it best. So Jason commented that election years can bring more volatility to prices and rates than in non-election years. However, those moments of volatility are fleeting. Haven't we seen that already just in the past few weeks? We had a situation where you've got the Fed cut rates. Some people thought mortgage rates were going to fall as a result of that, and they didn't. They actually went up. I've got a whole other video on that if you want to know why. But we saw the volatility of rates, and now the Fed has another meeting next week. So there's going to be a little bit more uncertainty just surrounding that and the direction that things are likely to go. But it's interesting, Redfin recently did a survey of first-time home buyers, and here's what they found. They found that 23% of buyers who are likely to purchase their first home in the next year said that they are waiting until after the election. Now, does that surprise you? If they're first-time home buyers, they haven't been through an election cycle before to see what the market actually does. I'm not surprised by this at all. I've spoken to many potential buyers recently that have said something very similar. As a matter of fact, if we go and look at what's happened in prior years with regards to elections, you're going to find out that they do have an impact on the market, but not as big as you might think leading up to the election. So this right here is a look at all presidential elections from 1963 to 2019. And the real estate market is seasonal in general. It's very busy in the spring, it kind of peaks out in the summer, and then in many markets, the fall time is not the time that a whole lot of people are making a move. And what we've found that is in non-presidential election years, in the months of October and November, sales decline roughly 9.8%. Now, in presidential election years, they've declined about 15%. So again, just over 5% difference, 5.2% there. So not a massive change, but we have seen it in our local market. We've seen a slowdown of activity in general. Now, when we look at home sales going back over the last 11 elections, the only 2 years when home sales declined in the year following a presidential election were 1981 and 1989. Every other year has seen home sales increase in the year following an election. And it's not supposed to be any different this time around. As a matter of fact, the most recent forecast that came out shows that the current pace of sales puts us on track for about 4.6 million home sales this year. To be honest with you, I think that's a little bit high. The latest numbers are trending that it's going to be lower than that. We'll have to wait and see just how much lower. But right now, the forecast from Fannie Mae, Mortgage Bankers Association, etc., are showing that total home sales are forecast to rise next year to about 5.2 million. And again, we are coming off very low home sales, decades low home sales as a matter of fact, but it does look as though home sales in the next year are going to increase. But what about home prices? That's a big one for most people. Well, here's the interesting thing. If we go back over the past 8 elections, going back to 1992, home prices in the year following an election have gone up. Now, I should point out this is for existing home sales. So this is resale homes. I'm going to look at new construction, which impacts us a lot here in Frisco in just a moment. But 2009, right in the middle of the crash, is the only time in the past 8 presidential election cycles that home prices actually went down with regards to existing home sales. Now, when we look at new home sales, now we're going back over the last 11 presidential election cycles, and again, in 10 of the last 11, home prices went up following the year of the election. Again, the only exception to that, 2009, right in the middle of the Great Recession. So what about next year? What are we looking at as far as next year goes? Well, the latest home price forecast just came out. This is the updated version as of October 24th. So this information is pretty recent here. And you can see that all of the forecasting entities here are forecasting that home prices next year are going to go up. Okay, and we know home prices themselves are simply supply and demand. That's all it really is. It comes down to that balance between supply and demand. And the thing is, when mortgage rates shot up, demand obviously fell. But what wasn't expected is that supply tumbled with it as well, because sellers just flat out didn't want to sell, and the builders were not building enough homes. And even now, all things considered, home prices in 2024, which did look as though they were going to be pretty flat, now look as though they're actually going to be up nationally. I still think we're going to see prices fairly flat here in Frisco, but going forward into next year, things really do look pretty strong. They look as though the appreciation and the activity is going to build. There's already certain signs of it. As a matter of fact, I spoke to some buyers just recently that had put their home search on hold due to the fact that mortgage rates were high. So I flat out asked them, I go, why now? Why is it you're going to go now? And it was quite simple. They said, we're tired of renting. We want a place of our own. We don't want to rent anymore. And you know, the thing I've always told people over the years is time to buy and sell is when it's the right time for you to buy and sell. Most decisions with regards to real estate are made based on life events, because no matter what rates are doing, no matter what's going on with regards to an election, life continues to happen. Babies get born, people get divorced, situations change which force a real estate transaction to take place. Now, I'm going to turn my attention to the Frisco market. I'm going to give you a few insights here into what is going on locally, and then kind of all together so that you can see exactly what the next year is looking like. And I'm going to share those tips for you on what that could mean for you, whether you're buying or selling. Now, you know, I know going through the stats and the numbers isn't always the most exciting thing there, but these are the insights that you need in order to make the best decisions for you and your family. And hopefully you're finding value in this information. If you are, really appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel as I put new videos out each and every week on the local community and the local market information. So let's take a look at the latest numbers for the Frisco market. All right, so what we're looking at here is my Frisco market report. And if you're not in Frisco, if you're somewhere else in the country, but you'd like this exact same information, go ahead and type it right here into the search bar, and you will be able to find the same information is available for any city or zip code in the nation. Now, the interesting thing is this market action index that you see right here, that's kind of a speedometer on what's going on in the local market. You can see 30 on that speedometer, if you like, is the cutoff line. Anything below 30, the market favors a buyer. Anything above 30, the market favors the seller. And so it's only a slight seller advantage right now. It all depends on the house, because even in our market right now, the absolute best homes, if they're listed correctly, are still selling relatively quickly. For some perspective, you go back 18 months or so, and this gauge right here was pegged all the way over to the right, showing at 100 exactly. Last month we were running at a 35, this month a 36, so it's a slight improvement in the market overall. Now, as I scroll down, the first thing I want to look at is the median list price, because the median list price here, it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on in the market overall with regards to selling activity. Now, no one's putting their home on the market to test the market currently. So by following this list price trend, you're able to get a good idea of where prices are heading. And this right here, if we start on the far side of the graph, all the way over here on the left-hand side as you're looking at it, that's where we started the year. And the dashed line is every 7 days it's updated, and the solid line is a 90-day trend line. And so this right here kind of have been moderating as we go through the year, which is very, very normal, but they're holding pretty strong. And right now, homes are still selling for fairly close to list price. We're only seeing reductions on average of 2 to 3%, which gives us a good idea of where prices are going to be as we go through the first quarter of 2025. Now, for buyers, if you are a buyer and you look at this, the market is very seasonal. So what I mean by that is get past the new year, more activity starts to pick up, and you can see beginning of the year prices really start to increase. So if you're a buyer and you're looking for the absolute best deals, buying sometime between now and the end of January is when you are going to get the best price available on the home that you are looking to buy. If you're considering new construction between now and the end of the year, especially if it's a quick move-in home, those homes that are done, the builder wants off their books. And if you can get that home under contract and off their books by the end of the year, you are going to get a screaming deal on that home. As a matter of fact, check out some of the other videos where I featured some homes that have had some rather substantial price reductions from the builder just lately. But prices are holding fairly steady. Overall, it's very, very normal. We're seeing there's no signs or indications in the market that we're going to see any sort of downturn whatsoever. Now from here, we're going to change over and I'm going to show you inventory, because inventory is what matters with regards to supply and demand, and it impacts the pricing. So as we can see right here, this is, I went all the way back. So January, here we are at the absolute low point, and you can see that inventory builds throughout the year. Here in Frisco, we peaked in August before slightly trending down, and then again since the beginning of October, we have been trending down each and every week, and that should continue now all the way through to January once again before we start picking up for the new year. So what does that mean for you if you're considering selling a home? Well, to be honest with you, it really depends why it is that you're selling. If you're selling in order to downsize, then you're probably going to be better off waiting a little bit longer. The market here in Frisco is really strong. I don't see anything happening in pricing. The only thing that could impact it is if we suddenly saw a big spike in mortgage rates again. But even then, we didn't see that have a huge impact on pricing over the past year. It didn't go up as fast, but it still did go up. So if you're downsizing, you got to remember that even though the house that you're going to be buying is going to be getting more expensive as well, The home that you're selling, if it's larger and in a more expensive area, the pace of appreciation, you're going to get more bang for your buck. So the difference between those homes will continue to grow as pricing goes up. And if you'd like to get information on how much your home is worth currently, I do have a free equity checker. I've got a QR code that links to it right here. I've also got a link to it in the description below, and you can visit that and get a rough idea of what your home is worth currently, how much equity you've got, and you can also track the trends for your neighborhood over the coming months. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're upsizing, that's a little bit different. And in that particular case, if you're going to be buying a more expensive, larger home, the longer you wait, based on what we know right now, the more expensive that new home is going to get with regards to price. So even though your home might go up in value, the one that you're going to be buying is going to go up in value. So if you're selling a home at $600,000 and buying a home at $1 million, and they go up 5%, that $1 million house is going to be more expensive. The gap between the two. So it's the opposite as if you were downsizing. So that's something to keep in mind. With regards to mortgage rates, like I said, I'm not going to get into those here, but they are expected to moderate and start to go back down again. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks as more earnings and information comes out and following the Fed's meeting. But if you have any questions whatsoever, you've got a specific situation you'd like to discuss in more detail, then I invite you to reach out. I'm always happy to talk to you. You can schedule a free 30-minute consultation with me at any time. I've got a link to my calendar, again, QR code right here. Or there is also a link in the description below. And by this time next week, the election will be all over and the Fed will have had their meeting. So we should have some sort of an indication on the direction that we are going. But again, thank you so much for watching, and make sure you stick around, as I know you're going to enjoy one of the videos that I've got coming up next.